Well, we are live, and I'm excited to be here with you this day to talk about all things YouTube. And I'm really excited because of a lot of things. We actually had another channel hit 1 million subscribers. Really excited about that. I always just love hitting my goals. And I'm excited because I'm actually going to pull a few of you on today, and we're going to actually do some deep dives in a YouTube consult, which I haven't done a lot of these live. And I think that you're going to see a lot of benefit coming from that as well. So I want to thank everyone for designating their time. I promise it will be super, super, super valuable, especially today. I got some things that I don't normally share. I do with my students and my clients, but I don't normally share it on YouTube. And so really excited about that. And I'm also excited that we hit the bestsellers list on the book. So if you haven't had the book, it's in the description. Go ahead and hit that. I know that there's some of you in remote parts of the world, some in Europe. Europe's been just like literally out of stock all the time that we're trying to get there because we have to ship from Europe. But if you're having some issue, just DM me on Twitter. It is open. You can go from there and I can give you kind of an estimation. But pretty much all the books that were ordered have been shipped out. And we've been using some different providers since they had to reprint it like 3 times because we've been selling so many books. So it's super exciting. One thing that I love about it is seeing people's results. I love seeing the data. I love seeing what happens when people are actually applying the things that I'm teaching. There's been so much energy and effort around these trainings, especially when I put it in the book. And I just love to see the payoff when someone's able to buy it, consume what I'm teaching, and see the success. And I really do love it. So my question for you is, do you have the book? If not, click down below, go on Amazon. I really don't care where you buy it. Just buy it. It's really, really good. It will help you further your career on YouTube because that's what it is. It's a career on YouTube and help you really grow a sustainable audience. So really excited for today because we are going to deep dive and talk about tips for really growing your YouTube channel faster. And for those that don't know, I have been on YouTube for quite some time, since the beginning, 2005. I own an agency. We work with some of the top brands, businesses, and YouTube creators on the planet. I really enjoy what I do. And I also do a lot of mentoring. I actually have a program called Channel Jumpstart. In fact, I'll just go ahead and show you the website here. This mentoring is the 12-week program that I deep dive and take people through. It's pretty amazing because I teach the system that I teach in the book, but you get some hand-holding with me and my team, and you can see the amazing results here for sure. You can get that at channeljumpstart.com. It should be in the description there too. But let me kind of explain the essence of everything. And this is really, really important. I truly do believe that if someone's an active learner on YouTube, that they can succeed. And when you are an active learner, I want to kind of explain what that means. I believe that you don't necessarily need mentoring or training or whatever. If you're just every day trying to improve what you are doing, you will succeed. Now, to expedite that, it's always good to surround yourself with people that actually know what they're doing, because that could take years off your journey to success. And that's where, collaboration, mentoring, coaching comes in. And there's a lot of great opportunities for that. But let's talk about what it is an active learner, because this is your first tip. If you want to grow on YouTube, you have to be a student of YouTube. Now, I really do love the channels that are out there that's teaching. We have part of the Niminati here today. I love Nick Nimin. I love what he's doing. I love the dynamic of all the YouTube educators coming out and really helping people along their journey. That's great. That's just one little stage of being a YouTube student or a student of YouTube. And if you really want to succeed, if you really want to grow, you actually need to take a step back and realize, okay, that information is good and you can actually apply it, and that's better. And that will actually you'll see improvement for sure. But that's only about this much of what I truly do believe it means to be a student of YouTube. Okay, you got to be obsessed with what's actually working on the platform. Okay, and it's not coming from me or from Nick or from Roberto. Like, what it is like you got to be observant and see the patterns that's out there. So I always look at YouTube. I watch YouTube 30 minutes a day. I know that it seems weird, but I do 30 minutes a day as a student. And what that means is I discover new content, and I have one question: why? Why did they do this? Why did they do that? And I watch YouTube for 30 minutes and I just say, why? Why is this happening here? Why did they do that here? Why is it edited like this? Why? And when you are hypercritical of the why, you'll actually start seeing patterns of success. Because I have a way that I kind of navigate YouTube every day as a student, and I also have a way that I do it as as an active viewer. But as a student, I want to just be able to see what's working, why it's working, and come up with some hypothesis of what I believe is to be true. And when I do that, I'm able to pull that back in and test that. So my whole strategy is, finding out all the stuff that's happening on YouTube and seeing what works, what doesn't work. Why do they use that thumbnail? Why do they use that title combination? Why is this really engaging, but they didn't really level up from there? And I can honestly say, when it comes down to the skill set that I have, when I'm asked to do a consult or in group coaching setting or even my own channels, I really deep dive into the why of what's actually working in that specific vertical. And I've been able to see patterns that most people can't see because I've been doing it so long. And I'm able to see the corresponding data. And I have a lot of experience here on YouTube, and that helps. But if you don't watch YouTube, then you're not going to succeed. And I don't mean just watching YouTube like this video or this live stream. I'm talking about watching YouTube, asking why, because that right there is key. Because when you are a student of YouTube, you will continue to see things you've never seen before. And I'm always shocked. Every day I see something on YouTube, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. Or, oh, I didn't even know that was a style that was happening here. Oh, here's a specific trend. Every single day I have that. And taking that information gives me great ideas of what to do for my own YouTube channels, because I own a lot. But also for my students and my clients. And so that is key. So can you commit to actually be a student of YouTube? Put it in the chat right now. Say, I commit to be a student of YouTube. And that is more than just watching your tutorial videos. I think you still need to do that. You need to understand the platform. You need to understand the best practices. But when I say you're going to commit to be a student of YouTube, you actually need to watch YouTube as a student. And you can't go to your favorite creators that you are. What I want you to do is find creators that are crushing it right now, and they could be in your vertical or outside your vertical. But what is your question? Why? Why are they doing this? So if you are committed for that, that is the first tip that I truly do believe that you need to really succeed and have growth on YouTube. And now let me give you a case study for this, because this is always fun. I always love this. So there's a channel that I actually featured in my book, and he just lives right down the road. He moved down to my neck of the woods. It's Dan with What's Inside. So basically, there was a second grade science project that his son needed to do, and they're like, "Hey, we want to see what's inside of a baseball." Whatever. And so he cut it open. They did it in a video. And before you know it, it became a thing. And so they started to cut things to see what's inside, and they could go from there. Now, when Dan was really actively, a part of, hey, this might be able to be money that could bring in money for his son for college and stuff. He had no idea how big it was going to be, but he wanted to improve. He wanted to be able to improve every aspect of what he was doing. And so he actually, when he would watch YouTube, he would actually watch it with the same style that I'm telling you, which is the why. Why do they do this? And he stumbled upon creators like Casey and Neistat. And he's like, well, why does he do these little montage videos? Like, what's going on there? And then here is the next thing when you're becoming a student of YouTube is, how do you apply it? What do you see, the patterns that's there, and how do you apply it into your content? And Dan knew that he had to be a better storyteller. And so you could see the evolution of his content. You could see the evolution of what he was trying to do. You could see the evolution of how he was a student, and that student, and becoming so obsessed with it that he became a master at the content. And what I love, and I allude to this in the book, he had a really good job. His wife had a really good job, but he had a number. If he could get to that number, then it would be okay for him to quit his job. It was like 2 million subscribers, which is crazy. But he has multiple channels now. He has an amazing team. And I love it because when he came on board, he wanted to know. And we had a lot of deep talks about data and all this stuff that he was seeing. And so there's all this different elements that help you be a better creator. And if you think at all that every creator that has YouTube success is just dumb luck, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing is, because I'm here to tell you, when you are doing best practices of what is being taught by all the YouTube educators that are out there, that's great. Okay. You're doing best practices of what's in the YouTube formula, right? That's great. But until you understand why you're doing it, not what to do, why you're doing it, that will help you really succeed. Okay. Second big tip. This is a big one, probably the biggest struggle that most content creators have is the viewer. Okay. Your audience. and I mean this, I gotta give it some context, right? So when you actually want growth, it's like, who's going to be watching your content? And I've been almost cynical when it comes to this subject, because so many people are like, I create content for myself. I'm like, that's great. You're creating content for yourself, but don't expect more than one view. And they're like, well, why is that? Because I know what I love, everybody else will love. I'm like, well, no. If you're creating content for yourself, then you can only deserve one view. And when they see that, they're like, well, why would you even say that, Gerald? That's so mean. I'm like, well, no. Let's take a step back, because when you are actually creating content, you're supposed to create content for someone. Okay, you're supposed to give them a unique value proposition. That's why in the book, I go in detail on the viewer persona and a really deep dive. Like, who is that individual that's going to be watching it? Why are they going to be watching it? How are they going to respond to it? And I go really in depth on demographics, psychographics, what they do online, what they do offline. And I know I'm obsessed with this. Like I am. I'm literally obsessed with it, because the more that you understand about who you're creating content for, and you actually have been able to deliver value, guess what happens? That's where organically you grow. That's where organically, when you're able to have content that is created for someone and they have it, they're thinking in their mind, this is so good, I got to share it with these 3 people or these 5 people, or I got to go post this over here that they got to come check it out, because of human nature. Human nature is, once we found and discover something, we have to be cool. We have to say, hey, look what I found. That is the organic way to really grow. And so tip number 2 is understanding the viewer. And the viewer is not you. The viewer is not you. It is someone that you are trying to hold their attention and grab their attention from, clicking on a title and thumbnail and then holding them through the video. That right there is key. Now, I just okay, so part of part of why I'm speaking this way and going to it, I get these big consults where I go fly into some place for a couple days, and we literally try to create a plan for them in the couple days. The first day, you generally, like the whole day, 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours, we just talk about one subject, the viewer. That's why it's so important. And I want to know all about the psyche and what's going in their head, and also the problems that they're facing every day, what their day looks like, what other things that they would actually enjoy. That's something that I've been able to get really good at. And that's something that I want you to encourage you to do. Don't just be a creator that creates and put out content, but never see how it's responded to. And I don't necessarily mean like just the data. Like the data doesn't lie. It'll tell you if it's hitting well or not based off of analytics. And we'll get to that in a tip or two. But what I'm saying is the feedback. The feedback is important, how people are talking about it. I was actually helping someone in a consult that needed to shift their viewing audience. And we focused really in depth for like 3 days on who that new audience was. And then also we were looking to how to apply it. And the views weren't necessarily lining up, but the engagement of comments was through the roof. It was like 12x what they normally would get. And I'm like, hey, you're hitting on all cylinders. And then, hey, let's look at the demographics. The demographics is the same as what we wanted. And it's totally different from this new one. So it's working. And in their mind, they're like, well, the views are not there. And I'm like, well, let's look at what's more important. Okay. And I went through the specific comments, and they weren't just one sentence comments or one word comments with emojis. They were paragraphs of how the content was really good. And as we deep dive into it, people started a thread of commenting, and it had thousands and thousands of different comments off of what people were saying. And what I look at is we were able to create content that actually resonated with them so that they actually had active conversations. The conversations continued in the comments. That's huge. That is huge. And when you go through it, you're able to validate, oh, they got that out of this, or they didn't understand that, or here's what they really are passionate about. And you're able to see ideas that you can actually bring in another video. And it can also validate some of the data that you're going to see on the back end. So here's the whole thing. When you are an active student, that's tip number 1. And you are really geared to the viewer, that's tip number 2, you're able to see things a little bit differently, because when you start to understand the viewer, then you have a better understanding of content. And you have to look at the viewer as a student as well. It's like, why are they saying this? Why are they doing that? When I do a new channel, like when I start a new channel, it's usually 3-4 months that we do what we call recon and research. I allude to it in the book, with a full chapter, but the depth that I go into it is super crazy, because I'm trying to understand who's watching what and why they're watching that. And that student aspect of it is important, but it helps me validate some assumptions that I have about the viewer before I'm able to create content. And even before I create content, I want to have a really good understanding of who I'm actually creating content for. So if you found these 2 tips really powerful, put it in the comments. I really would love to see some feedback. And we're going to get to tip number 3 here in a second or two. And before we do this, I really would like you to share this video on Twitter, and I'm going to be pulling some of you later on in this live stream and we're going to have a consultation. Okay. And so the only way we can do that is you have to have a camera, some audio, and then you got to just on Twitter. I'll have to pick it on Twitter, and we'll do a DM or something like that. But you gotta tweet something about this live stream for sure. Okay. And so I have that open and it's active. We'll go from there here in a few minutes. Okay. So, so these two tips are by far some of the most underutilized tips on YouTube to really grow, because they're like, oh no, you need to get a good title and a good thumbnail and a great video. That's what it's about. But realistically, what is a good title? What is a good thumbnail? What is a good edit? You know, that's where being a student of YouTube is. And then also understanding the viewer helps you provide better content for that individual. So that's really, really, really important. Okay. My next tip is one that I don't really normally share. I did allude it in the book. There's a lot of stuff that happens that don't necessarily, like, you don't know the importance, you know, but if it's in the book, it is important. But tip number 3 is you have to have a hypothesis. Okay, now that seems weird. You have to have a hypothesis. What is this, science class? Well, yes, kind of. It is. Okay. Okay, you have to draw conclusions of tip 1 and tip 2 to be able to understand what should be made. Okay, you have to have a hypothesis of what that is. And for me, I can tell you, I always try to draw a conclusion of who the viewer is and what they would like. And that is a hypothesis. Okay, we don't know if they like it or not, but we made a great educated guess that that's what it is. Okay, so that tip 3 is really, really important, because I want to know what people want, but I have to make a guess first. This is where content creators go wrong, is they're looking at a trend and they're trying to trend jack, or they're trying to social jack. And trend jacking is when you're like, oh, this is trending, we're going to do this challenge on YouTube or whatever. That's not what don't just push that aside. That's the dumbest thing ever, right? But what you're trying to do is see what people would respond to. Okay, what are they going to respond to, and why are they going to respond to it? And basically, you're going to create a hypothesis on a video. Okay, that would be a title, that'd be a thumbnail, your video content. That's really important. Okay, that is what we're actually looking at when we're actually going in depth of the hypothesis. Now, how much time should you actually spend on this? Okay, with hypothesis, you have to be able to solidify that. You really, really do. Okay, and to solidify it, you need time. Okay, what I always do is use that hypothesis as part of my brainstorming. So I brainstorm and I'm like, this is content that I feel like they're going to like on these different levels. And here's where they're going to be really engaged in the content. Now, I don't stop there. I go from the title, from the thumbnail. That's that first hypothesis of content, because content is title, thumbnail, video. Okay. And then I also look at what's going to be the best hook, how we're going to pull them in, what's going to be the best re-engagement. That's where we're going to come in. And then when you go through the YouTube formula, you'll see how we kind of position content and how we kind of ramp it up and the different styles to ramp it up. When we get to the area of the setup, I really have a hypothesis on that, and also the climax, which is that epic moment, that moment that should hit to the core. That's where we go in depth, and then we talk about the gush a little bit later. But that right there is where I set my hypothesis and I put a plan together. And that plan is I'm going to execute on this, and that's where I create content. Okay, I create the title, I create the thumbnail. And I have set parameters of what I do on those. And then I also create the video. Now, just because the video is shot doesn't mean it deserves any light and day on YouTube for me, from my perspective, because it needs to be edited and it needs to have and hit on all cylinders when it comes to that. Because when you hit and edit and you're like, okay, we got to take out on all, this is important, all non-essential parts so that we can actually have a good piece of content. That leads to tip number 4, which is really refining your message, really refining your video, making sure that the video is hitting on all cylinders to really grab attention to that viewer. You don't want to waste time on this. You don't want to neglect this. There's a lot of people that when you actually put your glasses in on as a viewer, when you're doing the edit, you're like, okay, would the viewer bounce here? Because that's tip number 2, the viewer, right? It's like, would they bounce here? Or I noticed that these really performing videos do this editing style. Let's go ahead and hit that up that way. And basically we're looking, we're not editing videos as a creator. We're editing videos as basically how are people going to respond to it? And when are they going to jump off? Now, a master at this, I've never seen a creator like this before, which is the guy that wrote the foreword of the book, Mr. Beast. Like it's funny, like he'll shoot a video, he'll send it off to the editors. When he goes to watch the edit, if he can't get past a point, he will not watch the rest of the video. It doesn't matter how amazing the video is. He goes, this stinks, go back and fix this part. And it's really, really interesting because like having viewers and like, if I'm disconnected, then all these other videos or these other people will be disconnected. But he's thinking about, okay, would the viewer jump off? Would the viewer like totally be disengaged? And that's something that I would 100% do. So tip number 4 is you really need to make sure that you edit for the viewer and not for you, and take out every non-essential part that would disconnect the viewer from your unique value proposition that you're offering them. Okay. This is hard. This is hard to do as a creator because you are trying to create content that would resonate. I want to give you an example of this because there was a time back in the day, and this is something that I learned pretty much, I wouldn't say the hard way, but it's like it was. So there's a video that I was an executive producer. It's right here. It's called the Squatty Potty Pooping Unicorn. Okay, so just in short, basically, the Prince is, we call him the Prince of Poop. Is basically trying to sell a product of how to poo better, right? Well, what's interesting was there was a moment in this that let me get to it right here. Okay, there's a moment of this that you're able, I think it was right here at the beginning, where the conveyor belt goes real quick. So you're able to see that part right there. And we basically, I got a YouTuber, his name's Jared Meekum, friend of mine. He has Ellie and Jared YouTube channel, but he was dressed up as an elf cranking the conveyor belt so that it would actually go across that. And what was cool is, why am I on the Spanish one? I didn't know I was on the Spanish one. Okay, let me, there it is. Okay, there we go. Cranking the conveyor belt. And, but basically that was a very pivotal moment. That was a pivotal moment because I thought, oh, it'd be funny. People would laugh about it, and they know how the conveyor belt is. Like this magical elf is helping this magical pooping unicorn, put out ice cream or whatever like that. And we get to the edit, and that's where Jeffrey Harmon, who was the other executive producer on it, he goes, "We got to cut it out." I'm like, dude, this guy has a massive following. It's funny. It's whatever. And he goes, message first, creative second. And I thought about that quite a bit, and we pushed back and forth quite a bit, but he goes, message is always first. And he goes, that literally took people out of the message. That took people out of the video. And sometimes it's really effective for a good laugh, but this was almost a 4-minute ad. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how are you going to do that? But that's what we did. We cut it out. And to his wisdom, it did pull people out of it. And it caused them to disconnect with what was actually being done and the purpose of the video. So that's why when we're editing for the viewer, we really need to take time and energy and effort to understand every specific second of how that's going to bring value to that viewer, and it's going to amplify what the goal and the mission of the video is. Okay, so hopefully that has been effective. Once again, we are doing some consultation here in a minute or two. So go ahead and tag me on Twitter, share this video out. Let's get that going. That's going to be happening here in a minute or two. I want to go on tip number 5. Okay. Tip number 5 is it coincides with tip number 2 and tip number 4, which is optimize for humans and not the search engines. Okay. And I know this is tough. Like I grew up, with my company as a search engine optimization company. I have literally spent tens of thousands of hours perfecting search engine optimization for Google and also YouTube. I used to do a lot of that. What changed for me was understanding it's about people and the viewer on YouTube. It's about people and the viewer. Now, you might say, oh, Daryl, 100% of my views come from search. And I says, oh, YouTube creator, that's great, but that's not where all the views for YouTube come on. They come when YouTube is suggesting the video for the viewer, because that's the whole purpose of the AI. And that's where you can have some massive YouTube growth if you actually will take down from this. So yes, you might have a video that starts out in search, but you'll have a video that should be recommended for that other video that you did in search, so you can get that suggestion. There's some tactics and strategies from this. And like this is the difference. Like I've been able to generate 61 billion video views on YouTube. Okay. I guess it's almost 62 billion, but it's like that at the end of the day is because we let YouTube do the heavy lifting. Go find the viewer for us. Instead of us trying to get the viewer we find the viewer. I want YouTube to go out and find the viewer. So that right there is so important. So what do? We optimize for people, optimize for humans. Now, humans respond to keywords. I respond to keywords. I just watched a video about Tesla's solar tiles because I'm building a house, and it doesn't matter if it was search or whatever, it was suggested to me, but it was like, I responded to that and I'm like, I'm interested. I know the prices went up, and all this stuff that's going on, that's great. That right there is optimized for me. And the one that I clicked on had like 2.4 million views, and I didn't find it through search. I didn't. It just popped up on my homepage because YouTube knows me all that well. And I watched it today, a 15-minute video, every single second of it. And I can guarantee you when I go back to YouTube tomorrow, it's going to have more of that content on my homepage because I just consumed it. I'm an active viewer of that type of content on YouTube, and YouTube's doing its job, which is trying to predict what I want to watch. Now, keep in mind, I'm not poo-pooing, search. I think search is a very great strategy, but it's only a portion of the strategy. Okay. If you're only focused in on search and that's all you're doing, you will ride the waves of the search trends, and you could have some great views from there. But if you want to really grow on YouTube, the only way you can do that is when you optimize your content for humans, and also that you're able to provide the value to them. Okay. That they engage with your content. And I'm not just saying leaving comments. They might rewind. They might watch it all the way to the end. They might watch it a couple times. YouTube's seeing all these little things that occur. It says, oh, I notice a pattern of these people watching this video, because that's what YouTube does. It kind of shakes its head like this. Okay. And I'm going to go find more people like that. That pretty much is how you get YouTube to recommend videos. And if our videos are optimized for humans and what they want to see, people are going to click on the video and watch it. And the more that happens, it creates that feedback loop of giving YouTube more data and information that it can go out to serve out to more people. That's the beauty of it. And you can have that happen 100% of the time. Now, this right here is really important. Okay. And this is kind of a tip within the tip if we're optimizing for humans. Okay. Let's do it this way. I will bring this tip up. I'm going to make note of what this tip is. Okay. But I need someone that is all your traffic, well, the majority of your traffic's coming from YouTube search or Google search. And you have to put it in Twitter, said, hey, my stuff's for Google search and also YouTube search. And I want to give that tip real quick, because once you do this way, and once you understand how I'm doing it, it literally is transformational. It is, because I've seen channels that were 100%. When I say 100%, it's like 80%. Search driven traffic. And we switch it. We switch it so it's more browse feature and suggested videos, which is YouTube recommendations. Okay. And so if you have that, I'd love to do that. We just want to be able to do that 100%. Christina Smallhorn, would you be able to come on? Like, I don't know if you're on mobile or what you're doing, but would you be able to come on and let's talk about it? Because I got to give this tip here, because if not, I'll probably forget about it. So if you can, Smallhorn, come on, that would be great. I will send you an invite and see if you're willing to do that. Hopefully you are. Let me go ahead and send something. Okay, so I went ahead and invited her. We'll see if she responds to it or not. But when you start really looking at who's viewing what and how they're discovering you, it's really important. And when you optimize for people, people have a pattern of consumption of YouTube. And we all come in to that consumption of YouTube in one way or another. And what we want to do is really pull them in very, very specifically and provide value, and then create some content there 100%. And we'll see if she can jump on. She hasn't responded back, but hopefully she will come on. If not, I'll just talk about it. Okay, yeah, she said she's coming. Okay, so this is really important, because there's so many of you actually having channels that are search-driven channels, and you're like, well, I gotta explain how to do this and how to do that, and I need people to find me through search. That's great, but I want you to start thinking differently. And if I ever mentor you, search is just a tool to get YouTube to recommend you. Okay. 100%. It's a tool to get YouTube to recommend you. And if you can't do that, then you're always going to be fighting the search game from there. Okay. And so when we optimize for humans, we really look in depth on where they're actually coming in from and why they're actually watching the videos. Those are the questions that we're asking very, very specifically. And that will translate over 100% to more opportunity to get an active viewer. Okay. So Christina is here. I am super excited because I met Christina several years ago, and I'll let her kind of tell the story. But it's really, really important. She's in the book. But let me get her on here. And hello, how are you doing?
Good morning. I was just scripting. I have not even put on my face, but I'm like, whatever.
You know that's okay, right?
Yeah, whatever.
You're like, I got it. It's just YouTube. Nobody really cares,
nah,
right?
Nobody cares what I look like.
Exactly. So like, tell us about your YouTube journey. Give some background on that, and then we can kind of deep dive into some questions. What you thought about this, for sure.
Okay. I started on YouTube in 2017 because I was like, well, I need to find a new way to advertise for me as a real estate agent. Everybody had been talking about video, but no one was really doing it in a high level. As I could see when it came to real estate information, there were a few people out there. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I try to do it my own way. I try to follow all the tips that they tell you, keyword stuffing and all these hacks, tips, all these things that they were telling you to do. And they had a specific way you had to organize your thumbnails and titles. And I was like, I'm doing everything. I'm checking off all the boxes. And every week I was like, this is it. I did the perfect score on all these programs. This is it. This is going to be the video that takes off, and I release it. And nothing would happen week after week after week. And I kept doing it. I'm like, but this is the week. This week, I did it right this week. Every week, nothing. Maybe, a couple hundred views, but nothing to write home about. If I got 500 views, I won the lottery.
Yeah, you're like, hey, this is looking good. This is great.
Yeah.
So, okay, so your mindset from the beginning was it's search first. People are going to be searching for real estate, and they're going to be typing in these keywords, and I need to put some energy and focus into it. And then enters your mentor, because I am your mentor, believe it or not. And what did I tell you to do?
Well, you looked at my channel. You said there was two things I could do. I could either make another video about dog pee, which I was like, I never want to be known as the dog pee girl again, or I could. You saw this other group of content that was doing really well, which I did like talking about, which was manufactured and modular homes. And you're like, do another video about that. And I'm like, okay. And you told me when to release it. And you said, go look at other people's thumbnails that make, manufactured home content, make, their thumbnail similar to that. And you said, release it on this date and it should do well.
Okay. So let's stop there. So she was doing from a consult. She started with a consult. I think you're a winner of a consult on some
I did.
or something like that.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is what you need to do. And I said, this is when you need to release it. That's really important because you need to know the timing of everything. But I had you do some homework beforehand, which was go and do some recon and research, the stuff that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And you actually did that as well. So you're kind of hitting on all cylinders. But I alluded to a couple things in that call that I know didn't register and didn't process. And I says, there will be a time that you will never have to do search again. You'll never think about search. And you're like, okay, whatever, and you just kind of went on. And then fast forward, we were at Vid Summit, and you actually came to Vid Summit. And I would encourage everyone this Vid Summit this year, guys. Like, we went through a Vid Summit drought. I'm really excited for this Vid Summit. We got some pretty amazing speakers, and you can find information hopefully in the description below. If not, we'll put up a banner. I could do a banner. We can do that. Hey, Vid Summit's coming up September 29th. So anyway,
click it and buy a ticket.
There you go. But you came to Vid Summit, and during Vid Summit something happened, or maybe before, right after. What happened?
Well, you told me to release it on this date. And so I released it, and I am in my imagination, I was like, okay, Daryl Eves, the great Daryl Eves told me to release it on this date. So I pushed the, publish button, and I waited. It was like that first day, I think I got 65 views, and I'm like, oh, great. Another guru that's full of garbage.
Hey, but I will take that. Another guru. You tell me what to do here.
Yeah. And then, but what I first had gotten, and it didn't hit me until I got to Vid Summit, was that you had said it was going to take 21 days before it really started getting into the machine of.
Yeah, I want to stop right there because I did specify that, because what you were thinking was, oh, I'm going to have a medium amount of views. Okay. I was looking at your channel. You had like 80% coming, like 80% of your views was coming through search. That's basically where it was. And I'm like, okay, YouTube's viewing your channel as a search, but we just actually did another strategy to pull in a different viewer. And how YouTube works, just for everyone, it tests things and then brings out more views, and then tests things and brings out more views. And for the data that I was able to see, I'm like, hey, it's going to take about 21 days. And what magically happened around that time? I don't think it was exactly 21 days.
No,
it was. I don't know.
No, it was shy of 21 days, but it started like picking up. And I was at Vid Summit at the time. And the first day we were there, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to ask me about that video that I released that didn't do anything. And I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, this is up to like 1,000 views. I was like, okay, whatever. I won't say anything. But then I kept refreshing it, and it kept going up, and it kept going up, and it kept going up. And by the time I left Vid Summit, I was like, this is what a viral moment feels like. I've never had a video that just kept, every time you refresh it, the views just kept going up. And I'm like, I had gained 1,000 subscribers. I was like, I was so excited. I was shaking. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Finally.
And we basically had a follow-up, which was important, because you got to have a follow-up when you're okay, what do you do next? Because there's so many creators out there that have no idea what to do next. And they don't know how to course correct. And where was the traffic coming through search when that video started to take off?
No, it's browse.
So for everybody, browse feature is homepage and subscription feed. Okay, so it was starting to go on the homepage. Okay, and you had some movement. So the point that we talked in depth about is how we're going to optimize for people. This is where the second consultation comes in, and I says, "Okay, Christina, I now prove to you that search doesn't mean anything. Your energy and effort that you're putting in on getting that right type of searchable key term is not great. What we need to do is what people want to watch." And yes, they respond to keywords, but you've been in the business forever. You understand what it is. You've done a lot of research. So take I don't even know how many hours you were doing before on getting that title just perfect.
One day for the title and description. One whole day.
That's a lot. Okay. And so that whole day, let's put it back in energy onto another video. And I told you to create another video, and then I gave you some specific instruction. What did you do?
You told me to well, we talked about how to like basically script it out so that way I had the right kind of hook that would bring people in. Then you told me how to like basically story arc it up so that way I continue to have like re-engagements, little things that happen that people don't even think about. Like it just flows with the video, and how to end it without sounding like I had this thing where I would say lastly. It was so soon as you say lastly, that's the worst thing you could do, and like you just basically showed me how to string a video together so that way it was engaging the whole way through.
Okay, so you actually did our tip a little bit earlier. Okay, hey, this is kind of where it's at. We got to really, get all the little details, make sure the edit's just right. I had you go and look at some different YouTube channels and stuff like that. But when you edited it and you created the content, you're doing it for a human. You optimized it for a human. You literally said, okay, how are they going to disconnect? What were they going to be? What type of value I need to bring here? And you did that all before you even picked up the camera. So the amount of energy and time that you put in doing keyword research, you actually did it in how do I make this really good for a viewer? And you took that same amount of time and you created content. And then what happened next?
Well, then I edited it. Well, I edited the video, and I kept adding little things that because you would say there would be spots that are boring, like you're going to lose people here, like this is boring. And I'm like, okay. So, and then like there were, and I noticed because, like you said, if you add some words here, just at the bottom, just to keep people's attention, that was actually parts that actually even spiked up a little bit because people would rewind that part just to read the definition of what I was saying. And that video now, I think it's nearly at 3 million views. So that's the
wait. So a real estate channel that was known for search, got 3 million views, but it didn't come through search.
Yeah.
Get it?
No. I like nearly cried when it hit 1 million. I was like, I've never had a video hit 1 million views. Yeah. Like my top video was like 250,000 and it was like 3 years old.
Yeah. And what I love about this is what tip 4 is so important is like optimize for humans. Why? Because humans respond to great content and then they naturally share it. They naturally engage with it. And it was able to help you really break out where you would have been stuck for a very long time of just trying to get that traffic. And so there's one other tip that I want to give. I just normally don't give this on YouTube, but I don't mind search term videos. And it might shock some because I'm like anti-search, but I'm not. I'm just like, it's just, why go for a penny when you can go for 1 million, and that's kind of my approach. And so if we're going to utilize search, then we need to leverage it. So the best way to do it is what would be the best video for the person that found me and discovered me through search and got to the end of the video, what would be the best video for them to consume? And then focusing on that. Now, all my students, they know all my tactics and stuff of what to do from there. But generally, when you get to that prime viewer, it gets to the end of the video and they know what to do next. That's when things really take off because they not only just watch one video, but they watch 2 And what YouTube does is like when they see the data coming together, like, okay, here's a vast majority of the people that finish it, watch this other video. What magically becomes the next up video, Christina?
Your top performing, yeah.
That top performing video. So, but okay, so Savvy Tech, I'm going to bring this question up because it's a really good question. What is the point of Tubebuddy? I 1,000,000% love Tubebuddy. Okay. And you got to just know where to put energy and time. I like their research tools and getting that data. I just don't spend a full day on it. I don't even spend an hour on it. I try to figure out, okay, is this, but I'll put it in Tubebuddy and see if there's any other variations to spark ideas of what people would do. But I don't spend a lot of time on it. And then Tubebuddy's more, from my perspective, is channel management. When you're maintaining a channel, I have a lot of hacks and strategies that I use with it to divert, traffic and do all this other stuff. And then I love the A/B testing feature, the split testing. It's off the chain. So I do love that. So thank you, Savvy Tech Tips.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I still like, even though I'm not like a search channel, I still kind of like want to see the search traffic for certain terms that as I'm like looking, as I'm typing out something, I'm like, I wonder how that search traffic is compared to this one to this one. And, I still look at those things, it isn't that I have totally abandoned everything that comes out of search. There's keywords in my titles that isn't, it just isn't, I'm not looking for the secret magic keyword to make my video take off. That's what I'm trying to, I guess that's what.
And I think that's the whole thing is you're more looking at it from a YouTube perspective in the sense of, viewers are engaged. And this would actually respond pretty well with that. So would you say, would you say anything on this? So once your perspective is changed of saying, okay, it's more about the people than it's more about search. How has that transformed your content in that regard?
I have a lot more fun with it because I am a creative person. So I do like having to spend the time. I like spending the time on editing a video. I like putting it together. That's fun. I like spending time making a pretty thumbnail and knowing that it's, knowing what I know about the thumbnail, what would make people click. I'm still learning. I love I love it. But I think it just having more time to really create a video that I like to put out instead of trying to make it so like the computer will grab it and make it happy, I kept thinking like, oh, there's some magic, YouTube algorithm that's going to take all my magical keywords that I found through my hour of research and, make these descriptions sometimes to look like blog posts, like they're so long because I had, made sure that all these keywords were it was just so much time wasted. And
we just need to be optimized for the right type of things of where we should put our energy and time, which is ideation. Like I would rather put more time in ideation and preparation than execution, because if you have a really good plan and you know what you're doing and you execute on that plan, then it shouldn't take long to do that. And so that's kind of where we're at. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for spending this time,
no problem,
educating the world.
I will say that one of my favorite things that you always say is that when you looked at my channel, you were like, you know what you have? I was like, what's that? He's like, spaghetti against the wall method. You just kept throwing stuff out there, hoping something sticks.
You're just trying to make things work.
You're like, you actually have some good videos and you're great for search, but you're not going to get anywhere. I was like, that's stuck with me. That's stuck with me. But anyways, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I look like a mess, but whatever.
No, you're great. I'm so grateful that you're able to come on. So, okay. So, thank you, Christina. I really do appreciate that. So what will lead to tip number 4 is optimize for people. Tip number 5 is one of those tips that I'm really, really focusing on is preparing to succeed. Okay. And that kind of alluded to that. What we want to do is create a game plan to be proactive instead of reactive. Now, there's certain channels that are out there that are super reactive. And that means that you don't know what you have until you shoot it. I understand that. We actually own some channels like that, and it's difficult to predict success. But if we actually prepare for success, if we plan for success, then that's where we can go from there. Now, I noticed that Judo Sloth's in the house. Judo, I sent you a link in chat in Twitter. Check your DM there. But I would love to have you come on, because I think you're a great example of this, of ways that have actually transformed to really putting a plan together. And some of us are really, really effective when it comes to preparing, but we don't prepare the right way. And what I'd like to do is take the segment here and talk about how I prepare more than anything else. Because that preparation is so needed. A lot of the preparation is that 30 minutes a day that I'm watching YouTube as a student. That's preparation. I'm coming up and going through ideation. That's preparation. So the ideation of, okay, what is the title and thumbnail? And believe it or not, I don't figure out what the video is until I know what the title and thumbnail is. And so I'm like, what is the title and thumbnail? Because that should be the payoff. That should be, where that's at. But ultimately, if you can't understand the title and thumbnail, there's no point of a video. There's no point of putting energy and effort and time in a video if you can't take time to realize how you're going to get people to click. Because there's so many content creators out there that create content that never gets clicked on because they don't have a strong title or thumbnail. And so that's where I spend time on ideation and preparation. And once I have several title thumbnail variations, then I try to narrow it down to one or two. And it'd be, okay, here's some similarities between it. What would I actually click in out of the two? And a lot of that would be, taking it to the level of intensity of really understanding the audience. That's where tip number 2 comes in, is understanding your audience. But it's like, if I can get them and anticipate them and have a hypothesis of what they're going to engage with, that's great. And that's where I would apply it back very specifically of which one would they actually click on. Once I pick one, then it's like, okay, what are we going to do for the video? What are we going to do for the hook? How are we going to re-engage them? What are we going to see here? And how is it going to be received? That's something that I ultimately would like to do, is have a really, really good understanding of how people are going to consume the content and how they're going to engage. And I want to know how it's going to be received. And I put a plan together, and then I start thinking about, okay, what's the best angles, or how am I going to edit this even before I pick up the camera? That's what we're looking at. And I'm like, what would be an amazing shot? That right there is something that every creator should get in the habit of doing, even if you would view yourself as a reactive channel. What I want you to do is view yourself as a proactive channel that has to rely on reactiveness, right? You can have a game plan going into it, and then things can change. And I've changed it a lot based off of what happens in the video, and I come up with something better, but I at least know exactly what we're doing. Okay, so hopefully that's there. Now, do any of these tips, let me do this question. Does any of these tips apply to gamers? Well, I'm trying to get a gamer on right now. And so let me do 2. I got Judo. If you know that you're here, if you're still here, I'd love to get you on. If you can't, maybe I'll get Patty Cakes on. I don't know. Let me see here. But yeah, if we could get both of you, and we can get a couple gamers on. Give me 1 second, and we can go from there. Okay, let me get this, and then this will help you understand here. Okay, sweet. Patty Cakes, I'm gonna DM you on Twitter. It'll get you some, let you come on. Okay, so both Judo and Patty Cakes, if you want to click that, it is in Twitch, or not Twitch. Twitter. I don't know where Twitch came from. I do love Twitch, but maybe we're talking about gaming. But yeah, let's talk about this, because I think this is, preparing for the videos when you're ready to go. There's not too many people that that do this in gaming, because you're like, well, in gaming, I can't do this because I don't know where that's going to be. I'm 100%. I would disagree with that. And I think someone that can kind of speak into this is Mr. Judo Sloth. How you doing, Judo?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. Wow.
Dude, I'm just excited. I'm excited for what's going on with you on YouTube. But could you just kind of give everyone your YouTube channel and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Judo Sloth Gaming. I've been on YouTube about 5 years, and I'm a Clash of Clans focused YouTube channel. So it's a mobile game, used to be very popular, still very popular, but definitely there's a greater variety of games out there. So I really try and bring entertainment and education through the videos, and I've always strived in order to improve and do the best that I could. And I took Daryl's 30-day creator challenge. I've been a big fan for a number of years, but when you were giving away a course for free, it was rude not to do it. And I've told you this.
You would not believe how many people didn't do it. I mean, they did maybe 1 week, and I'm like, why'd you stop? Like, it's good stuff.
I shared it with a lot of my creator friends, and nobody actually followed through with it. But
it's okay, because all I made it for was people like you that would actually do it, and would see the results. And you actually had results in the 30-day creator challenge, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I really took the first video that we did on week 1 seriously, and I was amazed at how it blew up, and it took about 20 hours of work for that video, which was extreme from what I had been doing, but I was just about on the cusp of going full time. So I knew that now is the time to throw everything at it. And, I've told you this before, Daryl, but you changed my life. So I cannot thank you enough.
I just mentored you along the way. I mean, you're the one that took action, because there's so many people that they hear it, but they never take action. So it's all you. And I'm just grateful to see you explode. I love to see it. So let's talk about this tip, because I think you can speak into this more than most, because gaming is more about reactive, thought processes. And even though you're in education, you can do a lot of stuff proactive. But once you started to understand the viewer and understand and anticipate what they're looking for, I mean, your channel has, since the 30-day creator challenge has blown up. You've also are in my mentoring program, Channel Jumpstart, and then it's just it went on a higher level because of some understanding. But could you speak into that a little bit about really how do you prepare for videos now versus back when you weren't really getting a lot of views?
Well, I think it's just the overall planning of the video. So I plan everything now, not just, before you'd come up with a video title, or, you'd kind of put that together. Whereas now it's more about the overall story. And, I thought I'd learned a lot from the creator challenge, which I did, but then the channel Jumpstart really just goes to that next level, like you said, and it puts the pressure on you. But if you're willing to put the work in, then that's when you see the results, because now every single part of the video, the language that I speak, the specific gameplay that's shown, or everything is tailored to the viewer and trying to give the absolute best experience possible and deliver again and again and again. So it really just changes everything.
I think that's the key, because when you're bringing this in and you're actually having a thought process beyond the title and thumbnail, you're like, okay, every element of the video, we're going to break it down and have a plan. Does your plan go 100% the way that you thought it would? Or does it evolve? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Oh, it definitely evolves. And I think it's something that's always a analyzation process, right? Like, that's what we get told: plan, execute, analyze, and adjust. And I think it's always sticking to that, because, you can sometimes get that sixth sense that, oh, this video is going to blow up, whether it's, because of the buckets that were created and things like that. But you can sometimes be surprised as well, a video that just takes off, and it's like, well, why did that take off? And what was the specific moment? Or, just really trying to nail it down. And then, I know it sounds simple and everyone says it, right? Stop doing the things that people don't like and keep doing the things that people do like. But I guess it's really being able to pinpoint that. And it's something that always comes back to the viewer. And that's something that, you know, I've kind of taken from you, Daryl, is that I always used to look at the retention graphs and it would puzzle me. But really it's thinking about on that deeper level, like, why would someone switch off here, instead of just trying to think of why did somebody switch off. It's remembering that that's a person turning the video off, and, you know, what factors could that be? And, you know, how do you make those little connections along the way? Because I think that's something everybody always asks, you know, how do you get people to love you? And I think it is those little connections with the viewer that you've taught us that, you know, goes a long way.
Yeah, no. And I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer in, you know, you're creating content for people, and how we look at it is, oh, I didn't get views. Well, I'd never look at views as what I quantify. I mean, views is a byproduct for sure, but I want to dig a little bit deeper in. Did they actually enjoy the content or not?
Yeah.
And where did they disconnect? And I know once you see and you did, because I mean, you know, I've mentored you, but it's like, once you see how to analyze a video, when you break it down and all the questions that go into it, a lot of creators are like so intimidated by the analytics. And I'm like, don't ever focus in on anything besides that. Like, just focus in on this. And once you're able to see it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. they didn't like this part that I thought that they did. And we were able to showcase in a lot of videos, they don't really like this. Like, what are you going to do to change that? And that's that analyzing and adjusting phase that you can go from there. But that leads to the next tip, which is really adjusting based off of your plan. And once you're able to see results, you got to be able to adjust and course correct. And you were able to do that. And I'm so proud to, you know, be your friend and your mentor. But your channel, like, you went from not doing this full time to doing it full time, and you're expanding, you're growing. You know, you're on pace to get to 1 million subscribers, not too far out there. I mean, you're getting that momentum. And I truly do believe it's that other portion of it is, once you switched from, oh, I'm not just a content creator and I'll tell what people want to watch, to, wait, no, it's about people, and I'm creating content for people, and I'm going to put a plan together, and you create content and you're going to be proactive in it. And you did, and you're thinking every little element. And then when you analyzed it, you realized, oh, wait a minute, this isn't necessarily what I thought. And you course corrected with a new plan. Yeah. And that mindset itself, like, how did that, like, taking everything else aside, but that mindset itself, how is that important to you now?
I mean, the view is everything, you know, so it literally is everything. So I look at some of my videos where they were great ideas, and I think they were well put together, but they just weren't optimized for the viewer. And I think that's the most important part. And that's where, you know, I guess it's one of those things, Daryl, where it is that aha moment that you talk about. And once it kind of clicks, and it might not click straight away, it might take a lot of different, you know, lessons, a lot of different calls that we were on before, you know, just that one thing happens and you get it. And I think it is something that's sometimes hard to explain in a one questioned answer. And I think it's a lot of different things coming together, but it's always trying to push the limits, if you will, and always trying to strive to improve. And that's where little things will just fall into place. And it's the little tweaks that make big peaks, as you always say. And it's exactly true. It really is.
It really is. It is. And I love it. And so there's so many different people that are struggling right now to just understand. And that's the reason why I did the 30-day creator challenge, is I wanted to give a free resource out there. It doesn't cost you anything. There's like literally nothing. But it costs your commitment level to do the tasks, because every day has a task and an assignment. Judo is a byproduct of the 30-day creator challenge works. And it's not the end all be all, but it gives you more information than what you currently have, because it's organized in a specific way. Not saying that you couldn't go out and find it. No, it's just organized in a certain way so you can see immediate growth. And you were able to see immediate growth. You took an investment and you jumped into my mentoring program, which is super expensive, but it's super intense too. It's like an intense program like no other, where I'm like mentoring a group of creators to do that. And it changed your mindset, on content. What would you say is the most valuable thing that you've learned outside of, paying attention to the viewer that's helped you as a content creator?
I think throughout the channel Jumpstart, the main one for me was the storytelling aspect. And I had every thought that going into the program, it was going to be the YouTube analytics. I've watched you for a number of years and seen you dive into all of these. And I think that's just what everyone expects, and that's what people think is going to take you off. And it's really not. You can analyze things all you want, but ultimately it's getting the content right. And for me, it was the storytelling aspect that I'd not really thought of before. And, again, that's where I think coming back to the retention graph, you can look at that all you want, but actually, if you don't have a story in mind, then people are going to turn off. So that's where my entire mindset changed. And, we had planned that one video together, Daryl.
Yes.
And I think when we first jumped on the call and you seen the numbers of that, I mean, it's over 1 million views now, and that was 6 weeks ago. It's one of the fastest growing videos that I've ever had. And it was a totally different type of content to what I'd already done. But obviously it was carefully planned through the channel Jumpstart to get every single thing for the viewer. Yeah,
because that brings up a really important point, because it's just like, just because you're seeing success on the content that you have doesn't mean you understand exactly what the need of the viewer is. And so part of the mentoring was, no, let's create new content. It's what we call buckets. We had a new experimental bucket, but he put forth, okay, how's the viewer going to receive it? How it's going to engage with it? We planned the video itself. And is it your fastest growing video that you've had?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
and it was just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you look on the channel.
Yeah, 1.7 let's see, how many is it?
Other than like update videos, it's my fastest growing video. It's on 1.1 million now after 6 weeks, and it's not slowing down.
Yeah, new format, which is awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. I think it just helps a lot of people, especially in gaming, because they're like, no, gaming's about the gameplay. But the storytelling aspect is key, and that's what you needed to really make your content more unique, more your own, and that's where it's going to go from there. But when you hit 1 million subscribers, I don't know why I'm clapping, but I'm clapping. I want to see a sloth.
I know.
That's where it's at.
I just wanted to say as well, anyone that wants to, go check out my Social Blade, because you will see the change in numbers that. I had from the guidance, and like you said, I'd already hit that growth, and the traffic was there, and it was really taking it to the next level.
Right now, let's just do that, because we might as well, right? So let's.
Oh yeah, you'll see the channel Jumpstart as well.
We get it down, but go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying before I went, I don't mean to get all like sales pitchy for you, but. I think numbers don't lie sometimes, and it's a great example for people. And I think, it is expensive, the course, but I think it depends on how you are as a person. And I'm happy that it's expensive, because in a way it helps the exclusiveness to make sure that, the right people are there, and you're learning together in that group with people that are like-minded and are willing to, push the needle as well.
Yeah, I can see exactly. Yeah, this is awesome. I love seeing stuff like this. I'll be honest with you, because it's like the system works. It does, and at the end of the day, that's what we have to look at, is like, how do you actually provide value to people? And it just does. It just, when you understand the viewer and all the tips that I give up to this point. I'm not just saying it just to say it. I'm saying it because if you really apply it in what I'm talking about, you can see success. And if you can't afford it in the beginning, there's a lot of tips on YouTube, but I would do the 30-day creator challenge, because he's a byproduct of that for sure. So
totally. Anybody can do that. I would recommend going back and going through it. Maybe even I did it multiple times before I went into the channel Jumpstart. So
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that for anybody. And if you put the work in, the system works. It really does. So it's all about putting the work in and not giving up, I would say.
Yeah.
So best of luck to everyone.
100%. Thank you so much, Judo. Appreciate it,
Oh,
man.
thank you, honestly.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing is I got another one keyed up. Patty Cakes will be coming on here in a minute or two. But I basically want to go over, I can't overstress these tips. It's like we hear all this information. We hear, hey, this doesn't work for me. And my thing to you is you need to change your headspace. You need to look at this completely different. You need to analyze this in a different way. Like if you're already shutting it off, then you're missing all the information and strategies and tactics that I teach in the book. And I put in the 30-day creator challenge and, put in my channel Jumpstart system. And it's like, once you understand all these things, you just need to be mentally there. And I don't care what vertical it is. I've seen every vertical take off using the same system. You just need to understand the value of a viewer is to you and what your responsibility and your duty as a content creator is. It's a very solemn duty to provide value for them. And if there's no value, that's where it's going to actually start tanking out. Now, I'm really excited to have Mr. Patty Cakes on. Patty Cakes. I don't know why I like saying that. But how you doing, brother?
It's my favorite part of every call when you read my name.
But it's one that you can't forget, right? It's just there.
That's
I'm very curious. How did it actually come to be? Like,
I get asked that like literally every time I do streams and interviews and everything. And honestly, it was just I've always liked pancakes. First of all, it's one of my favorite breakfast foods, and it was just a nickname that came about like years ago, and I found some art of a cute little pancake and decided to kind of make my own version of it later on. So.
No, I love it. Yeah. Let me go ahead and put that in there so that everyone can see the great little artwork. With the googly little eyes. I love it. So I mean, we've talked about a lot of the tips that are here, and you're definitely I've been mentoring you for a little while. Can you give some perspective on the importance of what I've been saying, especially when it comes to the viewer?
Yeah, that's actually something that I focused tremendously on in the last 12 weeks. Whenever I kind of started working with you, I realized that I was creating content that I thought was good just because it had like the most information, or it was like kind of what I thought was the best.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big changes that I've made is I've really tried to be brutally decisive about how my content needed to change in terms of cutting out intros that were, dropping off retention a whole lot, trying to do more pattern interrupts and just keep people more engaged throughout it. And I think it makes for not only a better video, but of course it also helps with your analytics so much because your retention is just so much better. And I've seen some big improvements on videos, especially ones where I was doing a similar style of video to what I was doing maybe like 6 months ago, but just kind of implementing all the different things I've learned. It's just made the videos better when people have noticed. Yeah,
and I did notice a couple things on yours, like like you're hit and miss on some videos before.
Yeah.
And why knowing the system that you know now, why were you hit and miss?
Well, I think there's a couple things. The first thing is that, especially at the beginning of this year, I was trying a lot of different formats and just trying to figure out like what worked for me. I was trying to work with some different editors, and because I've done almost all the editing myself, and I was trying to kind of expand my team and see if I could make content a little faster. And in the process, I think I lost sight of what people liked about my videos in the first place. And like you always say, I wasn't making videos for the audience anymore. I was kind of making videos that were easy to make. And I've shifted back brutally in the other direction now, where I have my next several videos planned out. That's very strictly on a bucket system.
Wait, a gamer having his videos planned out? Come on.
Yeah, it's a little different than most people, because I actually I don't tend to go for like the super fast like news stuff. I think a lot of people go for that, and for me, I want to make videos that have longevity to it, where it's like I make a video now, and some of my best videos I made last summer, and they're still getting 5,000 views a week or whatever. It's just like they just keep going and going and going. And I think the trap a lot of gamers get into is they're always trying to be topical, like what's the newest news that just came out, and you're competing with every other YouTuber. It's, you know, it's just, and then that news isn't really relevant maybe in a month, and so you always are on this treadmill of having to make the newest content, and you know, it's like as soon as your videos are not relevant anymore, people don't watch. And so I've been really working on trying to make stuff that's relevant for, you know, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the road. So that's been a big shift for me.
That's a huge mind shift, because the trap of a gamer is, no, it's about the gameplay, and it's about the trending things that are happening right now. It's about the news that are happening right now. And this is also a trap that vloggers jump into, because they're thinking, oh, if I vlog my life, that's all it is. But when you actually change your thought processes, how do I actually create content that is relevant today, but also 2 years down the road? What happened to your channel? Like, what happened to your viewership?
I mean, it's definitely grown tremendously. It's just, you know, I put out a video a month ago that's already 250,000 views, which for my channel is like a pretty huge, you know, growth in a month. So, and it's funny because that was a style of video I did last summer, and I kind of got away from them because they were a lot of work, and I just kind of, I don't know, I took a break from it. Now it's like going back to it. Now in the bucket system, I have a plan like every month to release, you know, a new version of that style video. So
and it's one of the best thumbnails ever of all time. And we talked about that, right?
We did, yeah.
I don't. People watch my YouTube videos, right? And they might even read my book, right? But I don't know if they know the level of intensity when we go into really analyzation. Could you just kind of go through that? Because it's like when we're going over the you know, the thumbnail ideas, like really break that down, because I think we spent quite a bit of time on that.
Yeah, that was the majority, I think, of the breakdown. When we looked at my channel, we spent a lot of time looking at thumbnails, and it was funny because I was actually really proud of the thumbnail that I had at the time, because I thought it was like a good looking thumbnail. But then you showed me a lot of different, you know, kind of similar thumbnails in other niches that I could kind of borrow, like design wise. And all of a sudden, it makes so much more sense how much more a thumbnail like that kind of shows up and pops, and, you know, relative to all the other thumbnails on the screen. And it's funny, I'm launching a new channel right now to cover a different game, Battlefield. And so I'm kind of excited because I'm using everything I've learned in the last, like, you know, 3 weeks or 3 months to try to, you know, use a bucket system and keep everything really structured for this launch. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
I'm excited to see how it goes too. And I think the level of intensity has changed with you, because it's not more, I'm going to just put out content, and that's great. And you had growth, and you would continue to get growth. But the thing that I noticed is now you're actually getting people that want to check back to see what you've done, because you brought enough value that goes from there. And that comes to this next tip, which is, your video is the first impression that people see as you as a content creator.
Yep.
And if you deliver on that great impression, what are they going to do? They're going to subscribe. They're going to turn the bell notifications on. They're going to be not missing a video. And you got to be consistent in that. So could you just speak in a little bit to that? Because I know we've had that conversation a couple times.
Even to expand on that, I would say that in the past, I think that's where I've kind of missed the mark on a few videos that I was just putting out content that wasn't really that good, honestly. Like, you know, most of my content I was proud of, but I was kind of going for some of those ones where I could hand it off to an editor and have them edit, you know, gameplay highlights and stuff, and then turn it into a video. And in hindsight, it's almost kind of what you're just talking about, but the other way, where it's like, if that's someone's first impression of your channel, and it's, you know, maybe that it's not your best work, or they, you know, maybe they saw one of your really good videos and then they watch that next, and it kind of turns them off a little bit. And it's like, you know, I want to have a channel where every single time someone sees my thumbnail pop up, they're excited to watch it. And that's, you know, I think that's where when you look at the really big channels like the Mark Robers of the world, like, I think that's where, you know that video is going to be good. Like, there's just, same with Mr. Beast, any of these guys who are huge, like, you know that if it's worth your time to watch that video, they're not going to let you down.
Yeah. And you know, you can almost anticipate what's going to happen next based off of just the way that he edits and does his delivery. Yeah, no, I love it. So, no, thank you for jumping on, and I really do appreciate it. And like, give some words of wisdom, give a tip for people that, you know, once you've gone through, you know, my stuff and you've been a part of my mentoring program, like, give them a tip of what they should consider.
So I would say, first of all, pay very special attention to your content and look at it from a critical perspective of like, what points do you think, looking at this really helps if you look at the analytics of like the retention graphs and stuff like that. But what points are people maybe losing interest? Are there big drop-offs that you could, look at something? One of the examples that you used, I think one of the trainings was the Seinfeld episode you broke down, and which I love that show, by the way. But it was just
a great show.
It was cool seeing how they have all these different structural points in the video, and that's something I hadn't really thought of in my own videos. I just kind of made a video, just, it's like I presented the information I thought was important, and I hadn't really thought much about it. But now it's like I want to make sure every video has a really good hook. I want to try to re-engage people throughout. If there's any sections that seem like they're a little bit long or might lose people, I try to be really smart about re-engaging them. And it's just, there's a lot more intention put into the creation of the videos. And that's something that I think was lost on me. And I think one of the best ways to learn that is looking at the biggest, best YouTubers out there, like people like Mr. Beast, Mark Rober, we mentioned, and pay attention to what they do. How do they hook people at the very beginning? How do they keep your attention throughout because if you watch a video like that, you're just hooked the whole time. And I think that you can study what people do and try to create it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. How much time do you spend on research and recon and
all the time? I mean, and I look at YouTube in such a different lens now too. That's the big thing. I think I used to be more of a consumer, and I still watch YouTube for fun, but most of my YouTube time is actually more like reconnaissance, where I'm looking at channels, studying their thumbnails and their title structures, and thinking about like, I do a test sometimes where I'll cover up the views and I'll just look at the thumbnail and try to guess which video of a channel did the most views. And
I do the same thing. I've never publicly said that before. I'm like, okay, I actually have screenshots. I have someone do screenshots of me, and then I try to guess the view count.
It's so fun, and I've gotten way better at it too. It's like it's a skill. This is another thing I always tell people. So many people think YouTube's a luck platform. You just get lucky. Some people just get lucky. The more I get into it, the less I believe that. I really think that it's skill first, and it's in every part of it. It's about how good of a video you create, and there's so many components of that. How good you are at marketing your video, which is your title, your thumbnail, the content fit of like what the video topic is, and is it relevant to the people that you're trying to make that video for. You might make the best video ever, but if it's not something for the audience that you've been developing, it's just not going to do that well. So
yeah, and I'll put this disclaimer out there. There is some luck with some channels, but there's not luck in consistency. It's like they might get a one-off video that takes off and they're relevant for 3 or 4 months or maybe a year. But to consistently be on top, you actually have to do it. So there might be some discoverability luck. Yeah. But what they do with it, like I've seen, and you've been on those calls too. We see videos that have 10 million views, but they only have 10,000 subscribers.
Exactly.
Like, what's going on? Why isn't this translating over? They were lucky in one video. They did it right, but they didn't learn from it. They weren't going from it. They
that's the thing. Yeah, you can't, you might have those one-off victories here and there, but if you don't understand what made something work, it's how do you reproduce that? Yeah,
my favorite discussion point is when someone comes on, and I was doing a consult with, I won't even say the name of anyone, but they're pushing back. They're like, no, my titles and thumbnails are the best ever. And I'm like, why did you even pay for this consult? Like, if you can't even take an objective feeling. And then two, there's not too many people in the world that have seen more titles and thumbnails than me. And I'm not saying that arrogantly, but I just been doing it so long and I've analyzed it this way. And yet you won't look at it differently. You won't look at it objectively. And that's true. They just think, oh no, because I created it. It's amazing. And I think you validated that with your best performing video just that you released a couple of weeks ago. It was like, oh, no. I was able to glean from this. We looked at what was working out there. We applied it from our own and made it better. And now it's a top performer. I mean, it is. So.
Absolutely. I would say the one other thing quickly just to mention is I think the biggest trap almost every new YouTuber gets into is trying to become the most searched thing. And that's something I started out as well as trying to figure out how do I get the right keywords. And I come from like a digital marketing background where I did a lot of SEO and stuff. So it's like, that was kind of my mentality at first too. And I've drastically shifted away from that. It's like, I'm all about going for browse traffic and suggested traffic. And it's just like, if something gets, great search, it's awesome. But it's like, that's not really what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And it's a big, I've really tried to get away from keyword stuffing and titles. And it's just like, I think it's a mentality that a lot of new YouTubers get stuck in, because that's how you do things traditionally on the internet, is just try to, get the most search traffic. And I think that it's a big mental shift away from that it's really helpful.
So I'm going to have you answer this. I've tried many things and nothing's changed unless you know someone famous that helps you out. It's so difficult. What would you say to that?
To be honest, I think that even knowing someone famous and having a collaboration can be helpful for your channel, but it's not a magic bullet, and you might get a big boost. But if you don't know the core things about what makes the channel attractive to viewers, it's not going to, you see that, with people who do a big collaboration, they get a huge spike and then it comes right back down to their normal because they didn't level up their own ability to become a better creator.
Yeah. And then too, it could be the complete opposite audience too. It's like, that's why understanding your audience is really important, because if it's a different audience, you'd now just confuse the AI of who your audience is.
Exactly.
And if they didn't like more than that one video, you might have hurt your channel on that as well. And so, no, look, I truly do believe in collaboration. I truly believe, but it needs to be strategic. It needs to be in a way that you would have a similar audience. So it's more about defining what that is and then how to bring value into it. So, okay. Any last thoughts or anything that you want to say? You got the platform.
Oh, man.
It's all yours, so.
I mean, I would say number one, you can't expect success overnight. It does take time to develop. And to me, what it is, it's about developing your own skill set to become a better creator. And like, there's so many components of that. It's, how to learn how to truly make better videos. And that's something that, that you have to study good creators. You have to study good editors, study, what's working on the platform, do your recon, and, really like become a student of YouTube. And if you're not willing to do that kind of work, it's really hard to grow, because it's just, that's what is required. And it's, you might not grow as fast as you want to, but if you do all the right things over time, I think it's almost inevitable that anyone can do well with it, but you have to put in the work to really level up, your own abilities. Yeah.
No, I love it. And the last question, this is more for me though, is you've watched me on YouTube. What's the difference between the information that you get from me on YouTube versus being mentored? Like how has that changed your perspective?
So, I mean, being mentored it's a much deeper experience. I think I kind of equate it to like a college class. I was an engineer in school, and to me, it's much more structured in that way. Whereas like, on YouTube, when you're just watching channels, I watch YouTube improvement and, how-to knowledge channels all the time, but it's one-off topics here and there, right? It's like, here's 5 tricks to do this thing, or 10 tips to do whatever. And it's like, it's very all over the place. Whereas if you go with more of a program, it's, you're learning step by step what the most important parts are. And honestly, at the beginning, I was like, in the first week, I was like antsy to get into like the meat of it, but I was like, it makes sense to how you structure it. I stopped you
really quick, didn't I? I'm like,
yeah. And it's funny because like it really builds on itself. Like, you get into like weeks 7 and 8 and you're really deep in the analytics. But if you started with that stuff, you would have a really mismatched understanding of the things that were the most important. And in reality, I think that, really understanding like the editing and the, bucket system and understanding titles and all that stuff, that's so critical. And the analytics, it's not that like they don't matter, but they don't matter as much as understanding the core stuff. And then you can use analytics to figure out where to make changes. But you really have to have that core understanding first.
Yeah. And I'm a data nerd and I love data, but it's like, let's strip that all away, because that's not important, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you have to have a plan. You have to understand who that is and the audience and so on. So thus all the tips that I just gave. But I can honestly say that, where my jam is at is taking the data and understanding it, but then have options of a new plan based off of that, and seeing things that most people don't see. And it's just because of the nature of, how God made me, but also I've been doing this for so long. And I have a lot of data points myself, but it's a new aspect. And it's something that I always get excited when the people that I'm mentoring get get finished with the 12 weeks. Cause like, okay, now it starts because now we have the foundation. Now we can actually do the real stuff, you know, the real stuff that makes sense. So
no, I agree. I'm a huge data nerd myself. I love getting into the details, but the reality is that you need to understand the core. You need to be able to use the data to inform what you should do in your videos. And that, I think that comes down to having just a really deep understanding of the mechanics of YouTube. And until you really understand that, you know, that's where you need to put your focus.
Yeah. And this is I know I said this is the last question like 3 times, but we got to have this question. But if you were starting a channel today, how would you promote it?
How do I promote it?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I'm literally working on that right now because I'm launching this new Battlefield channel, and you know, a lot of people ask me, why don't you just do it on your other channel? Well, it's because the audience is different. It's a completely different audience, and I know exactly what would happen if I put it on my main channel. I would get more views initially because, you know, people who like my channel would check it out, but it's not the same audience. It's 2 different audiences, and so to me, it's like promoting. It's all about finding the right people for it. So whether that's going, you know, on like Reddit groups that, you know, finding that super sub niche of like the exact people, you want to find those super fans of like the exact right fit. And what you don't want to do is promote it to everyone. You don't want to send it to people like, in fact, I was super critical on this. I put out a post on my main YouTube yesterday because I was trying to figure out exactly which people like Battlefield are super hard, you know, happen to have that crossover. And for them, I told them to go find my new video, but I don't want the other people who are just going to do it just to support me because they won't end up watching the videos. They'll maybe watch the first one, but they're not going to be like the true fans who are going to like be excited for every single video. And
the data point of having someone watch the first one, and they probably won't watch the full first one because they're not into it, right?
Exactly.
When the next one comes up on the YouTube homepage, which is browse feature, you're going, eh.
Exactly.
That's a very bad sign.
Exactly. That's
why if people realize that.
I think a lot of people, they just are hungry for views right away. And if views are great, but if you get views from the wrong people, it can do more harm than good. So you got to be really mindful about it.
Yeah, my favorite one was, hey, we just got like 20 million or 20,000 views on a video. I'm like, oh, that's great. It was short. It was a YouTube short. I'm like, well, what type of content you want to create? Well, I want, you know, just regular YouTube videos. I says, okay, how many of those views are actually going to translate over to a long term? Well, all of them are. I'm like, realistically, that's what they're going to do? Is that what really is going to happen?
Yeah.
Because how they're viewing YouTube is in a feed mode where they're swiping up and doing it, and you got views, but yet that you think in their mind that when they see one of your titles and thumbnails, they're going to click on it because they were forced to watch the other one.
Exactly.
They were literally forced to watch the other one. So
yeah, no, it's all, I really think it's all about finding the exact perfect audience for what you're trying to create, and then making the best content for them that they're excited for it. If you can do those 2 things, you know, all the rest of it's the details, but you know, that's the core part of it.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thank you so much, man. I really do love mentoring. I really do love seeing, but what I love more than anything else is when I give information out and my students actually look at, okay, this is the way to do it. That thumbnail is one of the banger thumbnails. Like you hit everything that we talked about. Thank you. And the views equate to that as well. So, you know, that makes me a proud papa when it comes to stuff like that. So thanks, my brother. We'll talk to you later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Look, this works in every single vertical. It works in gaming. It works whatever. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to take some questions, and we might pull a couple people on. I'm going to go a little bit longer. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in there. I will put priority to super chat. I know there's some of you that put the super chat in the beginning. I do apologize. Maybe Brian or someone can kind of make that comment on some of those. Would be great. I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and do that because you know, now's the time for that portion of it. So if you want to ask me a question, put it in there now. Okay. So, okay. I'll just put this in there while your stuff. Okay. Sniper Life. I've been watching your channel. I've been seeing it a lot. Okay. We just grew our channel from 150 to 2,000 last month from watching all the people like you, Roberta Blake, Nick Nimmin. We are doing the Chosen breakdown. Thank you so much, Darlene. So Chosen, I'm actually the CEO and the Chosen. Let me just put that up there. It's a TV series, and I got familiar with this the Snipe Life because they've been doing some analysis, and my partner, the writer director of the show, Dallas Jenkins, says, hey, you got to check out this channel. And I was able to do that. That was super awesome. So let me show you that real quick. Okay, so here is the channel. You can see that we got 1 million subscribers, 1.1 million subscribers. Oh my gosh, it must work. But yes, we go from there. But thank you so much for your support. I really like your reaction content. I don't know if I've commented on it as Daryl, but I did the Chosen once, and so I do appreciate that. Okay, coming in, we have some super chat questions. I'm going to do the $5 one first, and we'll go from there. But here it is. Bobby Sanderson, do you have any experience advice for guitar or music channels? I actually do. I actually got my start with some music channels, and what I would do is look beyond the music. And I know that's hard for a lot of content creators to think, because you think about music and producing the music and going from there. The music is extremely oversaturated on YouTube, but that doesn't mean you can't perform. So even though that I said I wouldn't do much with short form content, I would on a music channel. I think, music and short form go together quite well. I would focus in on that. And then 2, I would focus in on that transformational moment of your great music, whether it's covers or whatever. I would go through the process of producing that, but then weaving around content around that might show the process that you go into, kind of behind the scenes, behind the band type content. I think it can go really well. There's a lot of great channels that do that. I would go probably find 10, 15, 20 of those type of channels, start doing what I said in tip, number 1, number 2 is like really defining, your audience and understanding why they're doing certain things, being a student of those channels, and you can go from there. But 100%, one of my favorite YouTubers that I literally would 100% consult her for free. And I put that out there for the world to do it, but is this channel right here, Tina S. And she has some, I don't even think she understands what she has here. But you look at her growth, 36 million, 3.7, 2.5, and all she's doing is literally playing the guitar with a black screen. That's it. That's her whole video. But once you watch it, it's like off the essence. So if anybody knows Tina S, she's from France. I literally would consult her for free. Like I really like her stuff. And it really resonates. So there's a lot of content out there, Bobby. So you can go out there and discover that for sure. That's what I do. Do that recon and research phase. Okay, so next one's coming from John. Does unlisting older videos that doesn't fit your current content profile help out? Okay, so that's a great question. It's what I call pruning. That's right, pruning. You might take out a video or 2 or whatever. It depends on how old the content is. Is it currently bringing you views right now? So go into analytics, go into your older videos, see, are they bringing in views, and see where they're bringing in views. Now, if it's just trickle traffic, a couple views a day or maybe 100 views every 48 hours, that's trickle, unless you're getting a ton more, or that might be a lot of views. If those are the views that you don't want to do anymore, I would 100% unlist them. Okay. Or delete them. However, that being said, if it's just a minute amount, I really don't care. Because what is relevant is where people are watching now. And that's what YouTube's looking at. Even though if you really diversify, go back through a creator like Mr. Beast, see what he started out with on his channel and see how he's evolved. yeah, they get some views, but it's not like what he gets now on other stuff. And yeah, it's fun to go back through some content, but realistically, if it's not bringing you views, YouTube's not going to promote it anyway. So great question, John. Moving on to the next question, next super chat. Yo, Daniel, thank you so much for the super chat. Wasn't a really question. Like, there's so many people that are masters at the craft. Daniel, did you know that this channel existed? This Tina S. I think you would actually like it a lot. It's like one of my favorite channels of all time. I was a metalhead growing up. Literally I was. And I do love the guitar in so many different ways. I know you're a connoisseur of guitar, but I don't know if you actually knew about Tina. There's a couple videos that are just unbelievable. When she was doing this a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, she was 15 years old, and she's just like cranking it. So hopefully you do love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving on to the next one. I feel like I missed one here. There we go. Dark Side reviews. Any advice for movie reviews in connection with the audience beyond just the review? Review channels are challenging at times, just because of the nature of it, right? And you're going to do a review for it. If I was doing a movie review channel, it's all about timing with that. The earlier that you can do the review, the better. So you got to just be able to be ready to be able to crush it when it comes out, because it comes more relevant. Now, that being said, if you want to go beyond the review and connect with people, then going back through older videos or older movies that you're reviewing and giving your perspective would be really, really insightful. In fact, if you did when you say Dark Side review, you did a review of Empire Strikes Back, even though that it's been out for how many years, I would probably still watch it just to see what your opinion is. And the cool thing about it is you could do like segments and series and all that other stuff. That is, reaching out more about your personality than it is about the current review and the current things that are happening right now. And then too, there's certain things that age over time. And sometimes you might go back and at different times, it could be the Oscars, it could be the Emmys or whatever. And you could start saying, okay, here's my review of this. And it's like your review of the ones that are there. Then it's really even more timing if the ones that are actually nominated for some of these things. So great question from there. Let me go back. We have Renee Ritchie. Renee, I was just actually listening to you the other day on a podcast. Okay. If you built an audience based off of news and reactions, how can you start moving towards longer value content? Add a bucket and start building it over time. Look, you've been in the space for a very long time, and you know what people find valuable. And there's a lot of nostalgia in the tech space that's outside of news and reaction. And I've had an idea for you for a very, very long time. And I think I mentioned a little bit, I alluded to it a little bit on Clubhouse, because every once in a while I go on Clubhouse. But I would love to see the evolution of tech. I would love to see it. And I would love to see the tech that never made it. Okay, so the ideas that never left Apple R&D, and really deep diving into that. And then those are two separate ideas. Okay, the third idea would be, essay-driven type of content where you would really go in depth of pivotal decisions in technology that transform the world. That would be a really interesting thing. Now, I understand your genre, so it'd probably be around your genre where it'd be the most relevant. But those are all evergreen videos. One of my favorite channels of all time, and I'm not subscribed on this YouTube channel here. Well, I guess I am. Renee is this one right here. It's Cold Fusion. They have 2.9 million subscribers. And this video right here, I'd watch if I was you. The struggle of the original iPhone, the untold story. This is the type of essay-driven type content that just could work. And I would go watch this channel. It's one of the best on YouTube from my perspective. And you're able to glean from that what you really need to really succeed. So those are 3 different ideas. I have a ton more, but I think if you executed on any one of those, that would be awesome. Okay. Once again, if you have a question, super chats go first. If not, we'll just kind of nail it in from there. Let me go ahead and see if there's another super chat. All right. I'm looking to get in more seen on YouTube with my tech channel. Is tech mostly search based, or how can I make videos? What type that will generate will get a recommendation or get recommended? Sorry. Okay, so start with search. Okay, but I want you to ask this question. Okay, when someone finds me in search and clicks on my video, what would be the best video for me to make to bring more value to the person that found me through that video that they found in search? So if they found you through search in a specific product, let's say you're doing, an unboxing or something of that nature, right? What would be the best video for you to make at the very end? So at the very end of the video, you'd say, go watch this video. Okay, whatever that video is. And it needs to be super relevant to that video that was found in search. Now, when you do that, YouTube is going to recommend basically that video to the people that are on that topic, because a high number of the people that found you through search watch to the end, click this other video, watch this other video, and it becomes relevant. And there's different strategies to do that. So it's like, like what I would do is let's just say it's the iPhone, that's right. You're doing something on the iPhone 12. Let's just say that. Okay. So they found you something iPhone 12, they click on it, Silicon Tech. Okay, I'm great. I'm watching the video. At the end of it, 5 big mistakes that Apple made with the iPhone 12. That I would click on that because I just watched this through search and I'm like, hey, they made 5 big mistakes. What are the big mistakes? Click on that and then you do the breakdown. So once you see it of the discovery, how they're discovering you and what the viewer should do next is really, really important. So great. Next question. I am King Ganger. Any advice for a father-son gaming channel not seeing any growth since Kappa? Do you think it's worth the time? Look, I do believe that channels can succeed over Kappa. If you're not familiar with Kappa, Kappa is a government regulation that is a Child Protection Act. And basically, it kind of throttles, what YouTube can do for child content. Now, if it's a father-son gaming, it doesn't necessarily that your audience is intended to be a kid. It could be older. There are a lot of audiences like to watch that duel, but you'd have to make and validate that. But I don't think it's impossible. I don't think you're able to be throttled in that regard. What you need to do is really understand who your audience is. Now, if your audience is under the age of 13, then it's going to be a lot harder, and there's certain things that you'd need to do. So it just really depends on that. Now, that being said, I've seen channels continue to succeed from it, but the strategies and tactics are a little bit differently because of what YouTube can't do when it's content made for anyone under 13 years old. What I would do is go in and see the content that is performing for that age group. One easy way to see if it's made for kids is the commenting is turned off and it says, go watch this in the app, the kids app. You can see all those different things. And so I'd probably break into that and then go on discovering what type of content is working and then really look at it through the lens of how to edit. Probably your biggest disconnection is your edit because of the style of edit for someone that is between 5 and 10 years old or 10 to 13 years old or 13 to 18 years old is different. And you got to look at, hey, what works? And there's a lot of cuts and a lot of movement. And you might be able to have to improve your content quite a bit. So, okay, next question. I started out with a global audience, changed my videos to Minecraft. The vast majority of the views come from India now. Any idea how to bring in USA? One of the biggest mistakes that I've made on YouTube was trying to do a global channel first. So bad. I got picked up like in Saudi Arabia, India. I couldn't break out. I just couldn't. It was just like, you know, that's just where the traffic and the momentum is. So to do it, it can be done. I couldn't break out for that channel. And so we just started another channel. The most important thing is don't try to be a global audience first or a viewer first. Go right for the audience that you're going after. I'm going to pull up your channel real quick and see. It looks like you're based where there's euros. So are you in Europe or where are you at? Like, I guess that's the. Let me see if I can get it to pull up here. Okay. I'm not saying start a new channel. I'm not saying that at all. But your views are sporadic based off of your subscriber ratio. And one thing that I look at in depth just checking some stuff out here, guys. One thing that I would do if it was me is really start breaking it down on what works. And I think where you're having the audience, I would go find 10 performing top Minecraft channels, start with Dream, start with Press and Play, start with some Beast Gaming stuff, and then add to that list probably like 15, 20 of them. Most of them are US based. And that's something that you got to look at. So the time of the day of when you release is important. I would do it so that it's not during the time that India is coming on and consuming. Focus in on that. I focus in on the East Coast, but you might need to focus more on Central Time just because of the nature of when, I mean, the opposite side of the world's India. So it's like really focusing in on that. And then I would really try to go after the Americanized type of content that's working right now, because this could be consumed by a lot. And I'm just looking real quick on, you might want to do it a little bit differently, but is your Discord stats of your viewers the same as YouTube? Because you might want to figure out how to really localize some of the traffic and really push and promote for that first. Because what happens is you usually get geo-specific in an area when you release a video. And where you're at right now is in India. It's not great CPMs. It's kind of hard. You'd have to get like 4 or 5 times the amount of views if you did it in London or in the UK or US. And so I would look at how do you actually gather that together. And one thing that I do is like look at all the videos that performed really well in the United States. That it's the majority of the viewers, and you can organize it that way. I just have to go do analytics for a couple hours and then create content like that. That's what the first content that I would create, but make sure it's at a time that is more conducive with the US. So great question. Getting a couple more super chats coming in. So want to make sure I don't miss anything here. Okay, so John's coming up with another super chat. I focus on e-com and affiliate, and growth has slowed down as I approach 500,000 subscribers. Should I be broadening my content, investing, credit cards, real estate mindset? Look, you can get a saturation point with certain subjects, and I can tell you, that the more, I would say too broad, but the more broad you can get, like investing, credit card, real estate mindsets, fine. There's a lot of channels that can go there. It is a bigger subset of the people that would be in e-com and affiliate. I think e-com and affiliate could be more investing, right? It's like, how do you actually create investments? That's great. That's what I would do. I'd 100% focus in on that as a vertical of content that that you provide, and then extend into some other things. Now, something that's really hot right now is knowing the investors that want to make a quick turnaround, a lot of crypto, a lot of stonks, a lot of stock type stuff. I don't know if that's what you do, but there's a lot of interest, there's a lot of momentum, and there's a lot of investment channels, and i.e. channels that dealt with e-com are now doing it, and they're just blowing up right now too. So you have to be like totally into it though for it to really succeed. Great question. Let me make sure I didn't miss one here. We're only going to do this for a little bit longer because my voice is going down. I can feel it. All right, here we go. What makes a great family channel, in your opinion? Any advice? Okay, a great family channel is about the dynamic of the family. And it can't just be, hey, this is what our family does from the beginning of the morning to the evening. But it has to have another element. Just because you're a family channel, that's great. But what type of family channel are you? Are you a family that do challenges? Are you a family that does adventures? Are you a family that does challenges and adventures? What's going to be unique about you versus the other people that are out there? One of the big mistakes that family channels make is when they make it about, about the kids. And then they get a younger audience, and then they get throttled and stuff like that. And maybe you want to do that. I don't know. But one of my partners in Vid Summit, his name's Sean Duras. Okay. And Sean decided, hey, do you know what? I'm going to start featuring me being as a dad, and his dad and family interaction, right? And he's just exploding. He gets tons of views, and he's engaging, and they're having fun. You can check it out. And then they have Adley's channel, maybe somewhere here. I'll have to grab it. It's like A's for Adley. She gets more views, but then it's her perspective of that too, right? And so, all in all, you can do a lot when it comes to family channels. You can, but you got to remember who's watching what. And so, from his perspective, it's him as a dad interacting, him and his wife interacting as parents with their kids, and then A for Adley's about Adley interacting with her parents, and they have some fun and some great times. But it's like, how do you actually create content? You need to know what it is, and then how who the star of the show is, who's the consistent people. I would always have that be mom and dad, because then you can do a lot more things and not be really targeted into COPPA. So, because COPPA is not fun at all. Okay. All right. Let me make sure. Okay. Next one coming in. I'm from Singapore. Oh, I love Singapore. Went there for the first time a couple of years ago. Loved it to death. I have a big amount in the US and the EU audiences. Is my delivery affecting the retention or more of the video edits things? I'd have to watch a couple videos, to be honest with you. And that's kind of not the purpose of this one, but let me take a look real quick. Okay. Okay, so I'm just glazing through some of your stuff real quick, and looks like you do. Let me pull it up here. Look, it looks good. I think that, and I just was listening to some stuff from there, so I just wanted to know what would, what would be the answer for this question. So, generally, when English is not your first language, you're going to disconnect with some of the bigger audiences that is English first, because they'll probably look for another English channel, because it might be hard to understand you at times. just because everyone's weird out there. You sounded just fine for me, but I can guarantee if I put a group of 10 English speakers watching the video, some people, what did he just say? Like, what was that? What was that going? What was that he said? And that's where a disconnect can be. And so I do believe that that is causing a disconnect and bounce rate from that, even though that you're getting large amounts of that. There's ways to do it. If you really want a US audience too, you could burn in captions where it has captions down below. You'd have to do it after the fact, after the video is done. That can work. But that is going to be a challenge for that and two, I do speak multiple languages. I know the challenge of that. And it's a difficult thing. Like even for me, when I'm speaking a different language, like, what did he just say? What's going on there? And it's just not my native tongue. And so like I slaughter it sometimes, and it's tough. So this is a global platform. There's a lot of interest in Asia and those areas as well. Those are the fastest growing, out there really. Between that and South America is just growing at a very, very fast rate. Okay. If the date and time that most of our viewers is online, how do we comprise sorry, I'm losing my voice, and anyway, I'm slaughtering that. Okay, so if the day and time is the most for our viewers online, and I'm wondering, are you using the metrics that YouTube gives you from there? Because sometimes that's just saying your viewers online. That might not be the best time to post. Just a little word of warning. That's just the people that are watching your channel. And if you want to get more people, it might be at a different time. Do you compose the consistency and change the time of day we upload? I very sensitive of the time and day of the upload. I'm extremely sensitive to that until you have data. Usually for most channels, like the weekend is the highest viewing time for most channels. But it depends on the content, and there are content that's consumed at a different time. Wednesdays are really high for some reason for certain niches. So you just got to see where the natural patterns is. One thing that I look for is where is the views going when you don't release the videos? When does the uptick happen? That's what I look for. But I would never, ever, ever make a change in the day and time unless I did a lot of analysis of what's actually happening organically. And you have to have views to have that. But you can look at when other people in the industry are posting at that time. And there's some relevancy too of when that actually happens. And do what's best for you. But keep in mind, I did make a change on the time of the day that one creator did, and he doubled the amount of views because there's more people online at that time. And even though the metrics might say one thing, it's just what is your potential viewer, not your current viewers, that you got to do that. So great question. Guys, thank you so much for the super chat. Really do appreciate it. Every little bit helps. All right, going to this next one. How do I grow my genealogy channel? I have and want to have to grow issue in my graphic and editing abilities. And what do you expect a 50-year-old genealogist? Any ideas? Okay, here's the thing. It's hard. It's hard to create content. It is. I think that any age of creators can create content. What you need to do is take a step back and say, what would be something that people would want to know? If they're getting into genealogy, they're really interested about learning from their past. So can you create 10 videos about that? Okay. Has nothing to do with about research, but it's more about discovering and how to gather, you're gathering your information together. And then 2, it could be new websites and so on that can go from there. But the genealogy aspect is there's a lot of people into it. Believe it or not, I'm huge into genealogy. I love it. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. I love history. I love defining, some of my ancestors of what they've done. That content is important to me. So pictures, stories, like I've even traveled to places to go see where they're buried. It's a big deal. And so it's just like really defining what that is and what people are discovering. Now, you need to have an entry point. Like, who is your entry point of the viewer? You know, are they just getting started out? They don't know the things. There's like 5 tips that you need to know when you're starting your own genealogy. That's great video, you know? And so there's definitely, now don't think you need to overproduce it. You don't need to have graphics and editing. Just make sure that you're just speaking to them. Yes, that would improve it quite dramatically, but don't view that as the whole thing. So the whole thing would be is how do I grab their attention and time? And what would that be? Now, getting a good thumbnail is important, and you can probably find someone that could help you out. I don't know if you have grandkids or someone that you could get to help you with that. That would be important. But you as a content creator, you know, it's more about what are they going to expect in you helping them. And there's some great channels out there that don't even edit. It's just one straight, you know, educational video. And I like it, you know, it's great, but they have to grab my attention with that title and thumbnail for sure. Okay. Just getting down on the tail end of this. I'm going to stop taking, like, don't give any more super chats. I'm going to basically answer what we have. We're going to stop right here. I'm going to answer the ones that go in there. I do apologize, but my voice is about gone. So let me go through. Make sure I get all these super chats that come in because we have quite a few here. I think the next one comes from Mr. Renee Ritchie, another super chat. Oh my gosh. Oh, I wish I could. Okay, so we've had, this is kind of an ongoing conversation that Renee and I have, you know, about, you know, creating great content. And when you disconnect with what your passionate audience wants, then you're losing a huge amount of momentum. And so this has been one. I'll tell you what, they let Zack Schneider do anything. Like, if we can get the Schneiderverse going, it's saved, like, from my perspective. I mean, he's unbelievable. But anyway, I really like that cut. That was a really good cut. Okay, I have a crime cases videos, historical, TikTok, or unsolved, disturbing news explained, and investigations about the dark sides of certain topics. I need to figure out what to focus in on. Okay, well, you can't do everything, guy. I'm sorry, but you can't. I want you to go on and watched Unsolved Mysteries. They're on Netflix, or you can find them probably on YouTube. And I want you to go in depth on that and look at the format of what they're doing. Okay. The unsolved portion mysteries of it, right? Now you can weave in all that other stuff, historical and all that other stuff for it, but that's great. But the Unsolved Mysteries is a format that works. Even to this day, it works. And there's a couple podcasts and stuff like that they actually go through that same thing. And you're basically taking down that journey. Now, you're not going to do an unsolved mystery, but you're going to use that similar type of format of the setup, how to start telling the story the right way, how to pull it in, the moments of curiosity, and then that payoff moment. Now, for them, they basically was trying to solve a mystery, and they're trying to get viewers to do it. The viewers would come on and solve mysteries for them because they were told the story and they knew something, those small little pieces for that unsolved mystery, which is fine. But you can do it the same way, but I would 100% look at those consistencies of programming and do it again. Another one, I mean, there's different documentary series to do it, but you want to look at long standing shows that have gone for the period of time, because like in the criminal, law solving, breaking law type of realm, that consistent programming has been on and consumed by humans for a very long time. It started way back when on radio, and now it's coming on YouTube. And so I'd encourage you to do that. Okay. Very, very good. Urban Explorer, thanks for all the help. It's working and things are looking really well. I'm glad that you're out of lockdown. I hope you're out of lockdown. Appreciate you so much for that super chat. And here we go. Okay, so another super chat. Travel channel here. Whenever we go to a new country, our video picks up steam there. But when we go to the next place, we lose viewers and have to start all over. Any tips? So here's the big thing is you got to figure out where your viewers are at. You can't just do it, per country. It's going to pick up stream per country. You got to figure out where that's at. And so if it's more of an international audience, that's fine, but pick a location and speak to them. And so I don't know where you guys are based, but that's probably where I would be if, and how your languages are, but I look at that for sure. But you don't want to have to go to a new country and get a new audience, and you'll lose people if you just leave their country. So it's more importantly, where are you going? And if you're like the digital nomads and you're gonna go everywhere in the world, that's great, but your viewers need to come from a specific country on that. Okay. Boom. What is the craziest idea that you think would work like crazy if you haven't seen anyone do yet in a business niche? Proof in the pudding. Like I think a lot of people show, hey, this is my results. But what happens when you actually take someone that starts from zero and you're able to showcase, oh, I'm going to go ahead and make them money through affiliate marketing, and here's X, Y, and Z of what we are able to do. And you document every little process. So it's more like a, behind the scenes aspect of it. And you're showing them all the tips and techniques as someone mentoring someone. I don't think it's ever been done well on YouTube. It's been done well on TV, and I think it's done in a very unique way. But yeah, I would say that would be a very crazy idea because it would take a lot of time for sure. Okay, just want to make sure that we hit everyone. We did. So let me close on this. Look, thank you so much. We got some thank yous, whatever. My voice is almost gone. And I really do appreciate all of you that stayed on this live stream. Let me give you one last thing of wisdom. And before I do, if you haven't bought my book, please go buy the book. It's chock full of information. If you bought the book, put it in the comments. Would love to hear about that. Those that are still waiting for their books, all the books have been shipped out. I hope they get to you soon. If not, just DM me on Twitter and I'll respond, and we can follow in on that as well. And then two, any of you that are interested, I am opening up another group of Channel Jumpstart. Channel Jumpstart is a 12-week mentorship opportunity. And this is where I basically go through deep dive. It is expensive, I'm not going to lie. But we deep dive into 12 weeks of helping you very tactily have success on the channel. And you can see some of the success there. I really love it. I love Channel Jumpstart. I love what I'm doing. Now, the last advice that I would give you is I've given you a lot of great tips and tactics and strategies to really grow. But this last one is the biggest thing, is never be satisfied. Never be satisfied with where you're at. Never be satisfied with your content. Always look to improve. Always look to take it to the next level. If you will take it to the next level and realize that every video is your opportunity to take it to the next level with the ideation, the edit, the understanding of your viewer, how you're going to deliver your story, that is what you need to do. But you need to be tenacious. You should not give up. You should always analyze and improve your content. And I found that even when people say, hey, I'm doing everything that you tell me that I'm doing and I'm not seeing growth, I look at it in 2 seconds, I realize I'm not doing everything that I said to do. And where I start is with the original tips. Go through this video a couple times. We brought people on that truly was thinking one way, now they're thinking completely different because of the content that I've been providing for you. So really look to succeed. Never be satisfied. Always look to improve your content in a unique way. And surround yourself by people that will uplift you, to help give you great ideas, to help validate you, but not the ones that are always ripping you down. And that's why I have an application process for Channel Jumpstart, because I only want to be surrounded by people that don't want to give up, that want to take it to the next level, want to see it differently. And that's what I do. And you can find all that information below in the description. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.